And then in terms of James Corrigan and Kenneth Rooks, they were two different cases. Yes, they both qualified in the steeplechase, but unlike Mance and Clayton, who essentially did every workout together during that almost year-long process, Kenneth Rooks and James Corrigan were on different schedules, and with the James following kind of the NCAA schedule, and then Kenneth Rooks following his own Olympic prep schedule. James's training was kind of keyed for the NCAA end of year, the Big 12 championship, the regional meet, and then the NCAAs, and then whatever he could do after that fact, good on you, let's go to the Olympic trials and get some experience. Whereas Kenneth Rooks was focused more on being ready for the Olympic trials and then being ready for the Olympic Games. So kind of on different schedules, yet because of Kenneth had a couple small injuries that caused us to have to pause things for a week here, half a week there, a week there. Ultimately, towards the end of the year, they finally were able to get into some workouts together. But it really wasn't until probably a couple weeks before the Olympic trials, after James had gone through the NCAAs and done very well, won the Big 12, looked great at regionals, looked awesome in the first round of the NCAAs, and then came up a little dry for the final of the NCAAs and finished at ninth place in the NCAAs. Yet a couple weeks later, he and Kenneth were able to get some good workouts together, and I think that was what he needed for his confidence. And I think it also worked well for Kenneth's confidence that, he had someone pushing him in workouts again, and at that point he was healthy. And so when we went to the Olympic trials for the track trials, I was optimistic that Kenneth would win. He looked good enough, and he'd shown in other races that he was going to do just fine as long as he stayed on his feet. And in Kenneth's case, maybe not. He didn't even have to stay on his feet as we've seen before.
Seriously.
And in James's case, I thought, okay, he's going to make the final for sure, and let's see how many of these pros he can take off in the finals. As it turned out, Kenneth, was extremely solid, moved probably a little earlier than I would have expected at the Olympic trials, but powered his way to a comfortable win. And then James was the one who kind of stole his thunder by being a college guy who was in 7th or 8th place at the Bell Lap and was able to pass 4 or 5 guys to get his spot. So that was kind of exciting. And in some ways, and then he had to go chase a mark, and a week later or 6 days later to secure that, or Jaeger would have ended up with the 3rd spot. And so by the time he pulled off that hat trick of not only getting 3rd place, but then going to Philly, getting the Olympic standard, and actually running faster than Kenneth ever had in the process. Then suddenly Kenneth was like, well, what about me? No, he didn't ever say that, but I kind of felt that way about him. And in the process, he broke Kenneth's school record, no less.
Oh my God. I had no idea he broke Kenneth's school record.
Yeah, he got school record. Well, he was aware of it, and Kenneth's cute mom was also aware of it, and felt kind of sad that her son, it took Kenneth, it took someone 40 years-ish to break Henry Marsh's school record in the steeplechase. And then Kenneth Rook's school record lasted for less than a year when James came around and took it from him. But I think in some ways that when James ran the 8:13 in Philly to finalize his ticket to Paris, then I think we all knew, wait a minute, Kenneth is definitely, at least right now, more mature, more experienced, and probably a little stronger runner than James is. James can run 8:13, essentially being rapid to that. Then I think Kenneth has a really good shot of running 8:06 or faster, and that's end up what he did, and that's what kind of shocked the world, the running world anyway, at least those who didn't know Kenneth, and in Paris when he secured the silver.
Yeah, that was such a cool race to watch. And your reaction videos, like there was a ton of them circulating, but those were also so fun to watch.
That's awesome.
Just as the coach.
Yeah, coaches get excited, and certainly at the trials, it was all about, we were expecting Kenneth to make it, and I was kind of watching and tracking and making sure that the guys didn't close down on him. Once I did, I went, okay, let's see how James is doing. And then once we saw James kind of working his way through on that last lap, that's when I was kind of like, look at James, look at James, look at James. And that was cool. And then kind of a similar sort of thing, in the Olympic final, we had a specific plan going into that Olympic final. We knew that the Ethiopians were probably going to do team tactics against El Bakkali. El Bakkali had won 13 world finals between Olympics, World Championships, and other major events, 13 in a row. So we knew that El Bakkali, even though he had been a little injured throughout the course of the season, would probably be the guy to beat. The Ethiopians also realized that, and they kind of employed some team tactics. And going into it, I had just told Kenneth, hey, you've got the world record holder versus the in Girma versus the perennial world international champion in El Bakkali. If I'm Team Ethiopia, I'm finding a way to pace that race at such a pace that they'll just be able to run the legs off of El Bakkali. So it didn't come as a surprise when the race went out on about 8 flat pace. And as Kenneth and I had counseled together before, we had said, okay, well, let's run this. Let's not go any faster than maybe 8:04, 8:05 pace. If they run at 64s, I think that's 8 flat pace. That might be a little strong, but 8:05 we're probably good with. I think that's 8:06, 8:07. So somewhere between there. If it's high 64s, then that's probably okay. If it's low 65s, that's definitely okay, but try not to go any faster than that. And so when you watch that race back, play that back, you'll see that Kenneth, gets out well and then kind of makes a conscious decision. Okay, I'm going to hit my 64s and 65s because these guys are running maybe 63s and 64s early on. And that takes a lot of discipline,
Totally.
for an athlete. When you are used to being very competitive and you see there were 16 guys in that final and you look around and you're in 15th or 16th place for those first 3 or 4 laps, that takes a lot of discipline on your part not to just go for it, especially when the Olympic Games. But I mean, obviously, he is a very well-disciplined runner. He knows that, particularly in the steeplechase, you can get in trouble if you go out harder than what your fitness might deliver. And then fortunately, with about 3 laps to go, I think the Ethiopians who were leading it and trying to get the pace fast enough that they'd pull away from El Bakkali, I think they realized, hey, this is the Olympic Games. I don't necessarily want to lead this thing, and I'm getting tired here. Somebody else, it's your turn. And then the pace lagged just enough. And when I saw that lag, and all of a sudden the pack accordions back in, and Kenneth was on the outside, I went, oof, this is going to work out really well, because what we wanted, we knew he's got a great finishing kick. We just wanted him to have a chance to use that. I thought if it goes out super fast, like world record pace or sub 8 minute pace, then maybe he would be able to utilize that to pick off a lot of the debris and work himself into a top 6 position. But when it accordion back like that, then all of a sudden he's right there. And at the bell, he's on the outside of lane 1 and looked really good going over the barrier, which all of a sudden put him in first. And he said, okay, let's go.
Yeah, that was crazy. Seeing him come over the barrier there was just like...
That's where we all got excited, because it wasn't just, okay, he's going to be in there and battle. It was like, oh my gosh, he's in the lead. Oh my gosh, he's gapped the field. Oh my gosh, how are they going to respond? And they all responded well. Yeah. Let's finish up the race, I guess. At that point in time, I'm standing on about the 100-meter to go mark, so I'm seeing it across the track. I see the gap. I'm looking up and going, is that Kenny? That's Kenny. and at that point, you're just going, okay, we're all in. This is a poker game. You are all in at that point in time. And obviously, he's got a good finishing kick, but so does the world record holder. So does El Bakali. So does the 3 Kenyans that are in the field. But I think that whatever inspired that move when he did go gave us the best case scenario for a positive outcome, because in so doing, gapped the field, and then suddenly we have 3 Ethiopians, 3 Kenyans, and El Bakali, and a couple Tunisians, and a group of guys that are right there that all realize we've just been gapped by this upstart American. We got to do something about it. So if you watch them on that back stretch as they lead into the third to the last barrier, they are actually, Gurma actually has to push El Bakali out a little to give him some space. And they're going all out at that point in time. And I think that's what ultimately led to Gurma, I think, catching his trail leg knee, which just took him down, because at that point in time they're on a dead out sprint, and if you catch a knee going that fast, boom, you're down. And in the process, it probably caused a couple of other Kenyans to have to jump over that mess, and suddenly now we're down to 3, and he's got a medal as long as he as long as he finishes,
as long as he keeps running.
And that's where things got really exciting. And El Bakali obviously had a gear there at the end, kind of cut in on him as they came off the water jump. I thought Kenneth had a great last water jump. El Bakali came around, pinched him a little bit as they came in. I wasn't happy about that, but he kept his form really well. El Bakali kind of chopped going to that last barrier, so even though he had been passed, I went, maybe Kenneth can come back on him. But at that point in time, Bakali's clear. Then the Kenyan comes up on his shoulder, and I'm going, let's not, just battle. And he did. That's where we saw his real true grit and emotion come through, boom, to battle for that silver. He was not content for that bronze. And I think that's what a lot of people, to a man and woman, the people who talked to me after were just saying that was such a, well, I'll use the word gutsy, but that wasn't the word that a lot of people were using. That was such a gutsy move for Kenneth with 300 meters to go. But I think ultimately it led to his, I was just as impressed with the gutsy determination he showed in the last 60 meters, and not just saying, hey, this is great, I'm going to go home with a bronze medal. He wanted that silver. He battled for it. So obviously cool. Very cool day at the track that day.
Yeah. How did you feel? Because you are probably one of the best people to know how much work goes into being able to medal at the Olympics, how much work goes into preparing for the Olympics, because, I mean, you experienced that yourself. And then also you've been coaching Kenneth. How did that make you feel for him?
Well, just super, super excited. And obviously, I didn't ever experience an Olympic medal as an athlete. But he's a great talent, and we haven't seen the last of his what he's going to do. He's only 24 years old. We have another Olympic cycle ahead of us, and there's going to be some. We are celebrating and enjoying this without thinking too much ahead. But the time will come when we'll be focused again, and there'll be other goals out there, and people are already, sometimes they'll put the goals out there for you. Well, are you going to be the first one to break 8 minutes or whatever? And I think he has the talent and the skill to do that. He's run 8:06 now, and he did that off of a fast finish sort of thing. And anytime you negative split that much, or at least fast finish the last 400, I think he ran about 57 point for the last 400 over barriers at the end of a steeplechase. So anytime you finish that well and that strong, then certainly evening things out a little bit and still having a little bit of a kick at the end, I think that's a possibility out there, and we'll work towards that. Just as we in practice we were working trying to hit 64s and 65s, which would be about 8:07 pace, and he got where that was manageable for him. Our next builds will probably step it down a little bit, and I think in the right race, I think this go round, had he been in the right race at the right or a different race at a different time, I think that 8:06, even though that was at the time about a 9-second PR, I think he could have had it in him this year under the right circumstances, and I think next year there's no reason to believe that he can't run faster than what he did this year.
Kind of going back to what you were talking about before, learning from kind of the steeplechase guru, you called him, at Weber State. You'd mentioned that there were some key like drills and workouts for steeplechase. I don't want you to like give away any trade secrets, but what do you feel like were kind of some pillars in Kenneth's steeplechase build that really helped him prepare for this?
We had a nice indoor season for him, and it's interesting because he won USA's last year in that dramatic fashion when he fell and then got up and was patient, got himself back in, and then ended up winning and qualifying for the World Championships. And that came on the heels of him winning the NCAA championship in a pretty dominant fashion. And then he won USA's a few weeks later after falling, and then went on to the World Championships, made the final, and then ended up 10th in the World Championships. So those were all good stepping stones for him. And then he could have easily gone pro at that point in time because there were some shoe companies that were offering him some nice incentive to do so. Ultimately, that wasn't that important to him. He had some schooling left, and he also wanted to finish up with his cross country team. And so he, against my my suggestions or recommendations, he said, no, I want to come back for this cross-country season. And so I think that cross-country season, though, the build that he did, the endurance that he developed, and the fact that he became a better cross-country runner than he had ever been this last fall, led to him doing good things on the track. And so I think it started with just that nice aerobic build development, the strength that comes from running on hills and on grass and competing with your cross-country mates, and ultimately it helped us garner a third place at the national championships, which was really cool. That would not have happened without him being a team guy and saying, I want to come back. And then at that point, then I think having won the NCAAs and done some great things there, then it was easier for him to say, yeah. And at that point in time, I think the monies had opened up a little bit, and he was able to sign with Nike and for a very, I thought, competitive and fair rate for that time. And so he at that time moved into the professional arena, but still did some of the same things that we would have done with him had he been around for his last year of college running, running some of the indoors, not as big of an indoor schedule, but running a few indoor meets in which he took his fitness from cross country, his aerobic fitness from cross country season, which led into him running I think he did 7:42, 7:43 for open 3,000 meters, which was a good 10-second PR or so in that, which I think then gave him the confidence of now that with a new, better, certainly national class time in the 3,000 meters, then it gave him confidence that, okay, once we get and start going over the barriers now, and he's a very good technician, very good hurdler. There's not many Americans out there, or I don't know how many people on the world scene are actually better distance hurdlers than what he is. And so with that new PR in the open 3,000, I think it gave us confidence to go to say, well, yeah, if we run Chick Hislop at Weber State used to say, if you're a really good distance hurdler, then you take your PR in 3,000 meters and add 20 seconds, and that's what the differential will be. Now, I think 20 seconds is you'd have to be really, really good. But if you're 25 seconds, if you're a very good technician, is in that range. And, you add 20 seconds onto 7:43, that's 53, that's 03, that's 8:03, right? So I guess, maybe it was Chick was right. And so I think, the cross-country season led to a nice PR in indoor 3,000 meters. And then as we transitioned to outdoor season, then he was able to build on that. He had a few little injuries that came along the way. And part of that, part of being a world-class runner is doing hard workouts and managing injuries and keeping injuries from blowing up to be major speed bumps. And I think we were able to do that by we didn't race every race that we thought we were going to do on this build. We had to take some races off, and he missed a week here or 3 days here, and we had to cross train and whatnot. So it wasn't perfect, but at the end of the day, it probably was perfect because he had a lot of gas there in the tank at the right time once we got to Paris. So it was just determination on his part, not letting little hiccups get in the way or hurt his psyche, and then just belief that it was possible, because we all believed once we got in that final that even if they ran whatever race they could run, he could run in the 8:06 range. I think I'm on print saying before we went to the games that I thought he was capable of running 8:06, and it played out that way, and it was almost good enough for the gold medal, but a close second.